Speaking of the Bears, this is a very interesting read in the Chicago Tribune this morning. Dan Wiederer chronicling the problems up at Hallis Hall. And the premise of the story is Wiederer laying out what would happen if the Bears were to lose the next 4 games in a row, which is very possible. The winning streak would, or the losing streak, excuse me, not a winning streak. The losing streak would potentially reach 11 if they did what maybe some fans want them to do. And in the story from Dan Wiederer, Chicago Tribune, quote, multiple league sources have told the Tribune that had the Bears not hired Matt Eberflus, the Colts were set to fire him.
Oh, they're so clueless. So clueless.
So the Colts were ready to punt him out the window, no pun intended. So and the Bears made him the head coach of their franchise.
It reminds me of when they made the Trestman hire, and you look at the final 3. I'm blanking on the third name, but in the final 3 was Bruce Arians. Yes. And they're like, no, Trestman over Arians. It was somebody else who was pretty good in comparison. They are so clueless. You know, that was interesting what you read yesterday, too, out of the Wickersham piece in ESPN. It stated that, look, the Belichick crew identified this as probably the best job, but they have no interest in Belichick. So, like, add that to the list. No interest in the good coaches again and again. People keep saying Ben Johnson. I'll believe it when I see it. And I don't know if he can coach. I know he can call plays with an elite offensive line with great playmakers, but I don't know. The job search is going to be fascinating, not only with them, but the rest of the league, just how it goes in order and which names actually get jobs and how many are going to be offensive names with the way the league is going. Very interesting. One of them in the mix for, I think, a number of jobs is going to be the offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders, Cliff Kingsbury. You've got the Commanders at the Saints, and Washington is coming off a bye. It is now 7.5 across the board. I actually see an 8 popping. So this was 7 early in the week. Now we're 7.5 everywhere. It looks like Daniels is healthy. And the Commanders have been one of those teams this year where they beat up on bad teams, and then they struggle against good teams. This version of the Saints is bad. It's bad. We like Rizzy a lot, but, without Taysom Hill and now without Carr, they say that Hayner's going to be their starting quarterback. So they held that out there for a few days. Oh, we're going to wait. We're going to wait till later in the week. They eventually announced Hayner. When you can't decide between Hayner and Rattler, probably don't really have a quarterback option there. But yeah, the Saints 7.5-point home dogs. Remember, still no Taysom Hill. Kamara's not practicing this week. He's dealing with some sort of an illness. Not good for New Orleans. And it looks like Marshawn Lattimore is going to make his Commanders debut against his former team.
The natural reaction to everything you just said is, what is the Saints team total? And it's right now at MGM 16.5. And I love when they do this to you, when the books do this. 16.5. And if you want to bet the over, it's minus 135. Oh, all you need is 17, and they might score 10 or 13. That's my first look at the game. It's not a game I'm in love with. You see that number tacked onto the 7, so it is 7.5. The hook is very important, but the hook is respect for the favorite. We understand that. If it's 6.5, that's respect for the dog. At 7.5, it's respect for the favorite. And I would hate to be somebody that takes 7.5 because, I get the hook, and it's 14-0 in the first quarter. That's my concern. So I look at New Orleans team total under. That's probably the bet I would make if I had to make this game a bet.
Do you think that the Saints without Taysom Hill is over, their scoring average is over or under 16.5?
I don't know.
It is under. They average 15.2 points per game without Taysom Hill. With him, they average 26.8 points per game. He's been massive. And Rizzy's talked about it, that everything he does for that offense. His absence was certainly felt last week as they score only 14 points against the Giants. And now you're going to miss Carr for the entire game. Much of that game with Carr. Keep that in mind. I like Commanders or a teaser. That's just where I'm at in this one. It would not surprise me if we see a Washington blowout. Daniel's using his legs again because we started to see that before their bye week, but this is only a Commanders bet for me.
Yeah, and this total's come down quite a bit, and that's locked in with what we're talking about with New Orleans. I mean, your weaponry has been minimized. Olave's still on the shelf. I know that because I had to make my fantasy lineup yesterday at 8:05 p.m. Eastern. I never remember. I don't really – I'm in the fantasy playoffs, and I still don't have my lineup set. Yeah, I'm in the playoffs right now. And I set my lineup at 8:05. I'm so indifferent to fantasy. And I'm in the playoffs. I'm one of 4 teams in the playoffs, and I still don't set my lineup until the very last minute. I have an alarm on my phone every Thursday at 8:05, just to remind myself.
Did you have someone playing last night?
I did not, no. What's crazy is I didn't even know that I did or didn't. I don't know my fantasy team. And I'm in the playoffs in both leagues, which I guess says a lot about the leagues I'm in. I just pick up guys all the time. I just stack running backs and receivers. I usually carry one quarterback too. So I just stack receivers and running backs because the depth is always an issue. I know some people in the league have 3 or 4 quarterbacks. Like for what? You can only play one. Like what's the point? And this league stinks. I'm never good. Well, because you have 4 quarterbacks and 2 running backs.
Why are you holding 3 defenses? Like, this is so stupid. You should have 1 defense, and it should probably change most weeks.
So no starting quarterback, no number 1 receiver. The offensive line has been an issue. Total 47 to 43.5. And honestly, like it might still not be low enough is what I was trying to say at 43.5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get that completely. On the Commanders, I think it's going to be a good day for Jaden Daniels if you want to take a look at any of those props. Bucks at the Chargers moving on, Sammy. And you've got the home Chargers, a 3-point favorite, total 45.5. Another one of these Bucks games. And same thing with the Chargers, where you've got to pay close attention to the final injury report, which will come out today. Let's go with the favorite first. The Chargers side, Ladd McConkey, limited all week. Remember, he was limited. Harbaugh's playing games a little bit. Limited all of last week, does not play. So he's been limited this week. Dealing with a shoulder and a knee. Is he going to play? No idea. Will Dissly has not been practicing either. Joey Bosa, he's been limited this week. So McConkey and Dissly, those are the 2 guys that, for much of this season, that Herbert has ended up trusting more than the others, and we're not sure if either of them are going to play in this game. Now, on the Bucs side, you've got not practicing Mike Evans, Bucky Irving, the left tackle Wirfs, and safety Antoine Winfield. So potentially on offense, there are some concerns, but many of those guys were able to fight it out and get on the field last week against Vegas, a game that they won by a couple scores. They probably should have won by a lot more, but Baker turnovers were an issue, and he single-handedly kept the Raiders in this game. So Chargers to land a field goal, 45.5. Totals come down a little bit during the week.
I took Tampa +3. I think I told you yesterday. If I didn't tell you, I meant to tell you that my buddy in Vegas who bets the NFL and bets mostly dogs, this is his favorite bet. He loves Tampa +3. And it's not really a surprise because I've known guys that have bet this league for 15, 20 years that have loved 2 things about the Chargers. Love to bet them as dogs and love to fade them as favorites. And here you go, a shorthanded team at home where there's not a real true home field, laying 3. Now, maybe Harbaugh over time will be the great equalizer. But if you go back and look at all like the Phillip Rivers teams and the Breeze teams, and as of 2000, they've been a team historically as a favorite that has not been great. Now, is that more trend or truth? I'm not exactly sure, and we'll find out over the next couple of years of Harbaugh's regime if he can buck that trend. But I'm not surprised that sharp guys like Tampa +3 in the spot, and I was happy to jump on with them.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That's the look that that I would roll with. I want to make sure that all these guys are in this game, namely Evans and Irving, but I expect them to be. And you're coming off a tough divisional matchup, kept it close against the Chiefs. Also want to know what's happening with the receivers on the Chargers side. Is it going to be McConkey out again? With him out, Palmer ended up getting the majority of the looks. Man, it was just one of those games you're watching with the Chiefs, and you're like, how are the Chargers right there? How are the Chargers in a position to win this game? But they certainly were. But yeah, they're one of those teams getting points. That's a different story. We've been higher on the Bucs, I feel, than just about everybody else the majority of the season. We were expecting to see what occurred pretty quickly with the Bucs taking over the Falcons in the division. So we're not sitting here surprised that they are the favorite and the leader in the pack in the NFC South.
You think Evans plays?
Yes, I do. You think he does?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because I took 3.
Yeah. And, that's one of those things where, the Chargers, a lot of their metrics defensively are still strong. They're top 5 EPA per play, top 4 EPA per pass. But, they haven't faced a ton of great offenses this year. And that's something that people have dinged them for. And maybe they're getting a little extra credit in this spot because of it. We've also got New England and Arizona. We've talked a little bit about this game throughout the week. The battle with the point spread, Sam, is really interesting because early in the week, it's Arizona -6. Then it gets bet down to 4, 4.5. And now we're back to where we started. Arizona, a 6-point home favorite against the Pats coming off the bye.
The old okey doke. Let's bet them down to bet them up. That appears like it's exactly what happened. Let's cheapen Arizona and then slam them when the limits go up. Total has also gone up 46.5 in a couple shops right now, on the way to 47.
I like the Cardinals. I'm sorry, the Patriots as a dog on the road. Patriots coming off the bye. I don't like what I've seen out of Kyler. He was a top 10 quarterback for the first 11 weeks of the year. And now last couple weeks throwing interceptions, multiple interceptions, back-to-back weeks. Not looking great right now. And, Arizona's defense, not very good. Actually, New England's defense, if you look at success rate, they're better than what we've seen out of Arizona. I just don't feel that Arizona should be laying 6. Not the way that Kyler's playing right now. So that's why I'm going to take the points with New England there.